In a logo, points of light connect to form a soaring eagle. DRA, 25 years. 1 in 5 people in the U.S. has a disability. Most of us at some point in our lives will have a disability. Over 25 million people in the U.S. have vision loss. Over 48 million people in the U.S. have hearing loss. Disability rights advocates protects the civil rights of people of all types of disabilities. For this reason, the following video has been made fully accessible by the use of open captioning for the deaf and hard of hearing and open audio description for people who are blind and low vision. Audio description provided by Michelle Spitz, woman of her word. In a logo, an arc spreads over the letters DRA, Disability Rights Advocates, a nonprofit corporation. Larry Paradis was one of the nation's most influential disability rights lawyers. He co-founded DRA with Sid Wilinski in 1993. He tragically passed away in 2016, leaving behind a legacy of groundbreaking legal victories, many of which centered around accessible technology. In photos, Larry smiles with Sid and also with his family. He raises a glass and a toast. He chats with a colleague. Perched between them is a bronze statuette, the DRA's Eagle Award. In video, Dimitri Belzer, a former client of DRA, walks a corridor sweeping his mobility cane before him. Dimitri is the executive director at the Center for Accessible Technology.
Technology was something that Larry and I really shared a passion for because so much of business is done by email and done online. People with disabilities and people with severe disabilities can compete in the world because their disability doesn't hold them back. If they have technology access, they can go anywhere, they can do anything, they can be involved in anything that's happening.
Dimitri adjusts a monitor in a computer lab.
And so one of the concerns that Larry and I would talk about was how do we make sure that technology is always going to be available for people with disabilities?
Linda Dardarian of Goldstein, Borgen, Dardarian & Ho has co-counseled with DRA and Larry on many precedent-setting access to technology cases.
If technology developers aren't thinking about people with disabilities when they are developing new products or services, then people with disabilities are completely shut out from a whole new aspect of life. So the importance of bringing the first web accessibility litigation was the NFB versus Target case.
A headline: Blind patrons sue Target for site inaccessibility.
And Larry was the spearhead of that case.
In video, Dimitri chats with Lisa Maria Martinez, a client in DRA's groundbreaking case against Target. As a blind mother of 3 children, Lisa Maria faces barriers in many areas of life and has worked extensively with DRA dismantling those barriers for all blind people.
It can get tough because hearing no, no, no over and over again, or the ADA doesn't apply to us, it could be frustrating. But when you have an organization like DRA side by side next to you in that fight for accessibility, you know you're going to come out winning.
Lisa Maria chuckles. A newscast.
Retailer Target today announced they've settled a class action lawsuit. Target has agreed to improve its technology. The company is committed to serving all guests with an accessible shopping experience.
Stuart Seaborn is a managing director overseeing litigation at DRA.
There was some difficult law and there were some hurdles to be dealt with, but Larry Paradis was willing to take risks that nobody else would take.
Linda Dardarian.
The NFB versus Target decision literally sent ripples throughout the World Wide Web.
You know, we got the first court precedent saying an online business could be covered by the ADA.
So it really laid the foundation for huge advancements of the rights of people with disabilities in cyberspace.
Larry just really wanted to make changes for people with disabilities. And he did make huge changes for people with disabilities.
DRA reached a landmark settlement with Sutter Health to improve web and app services, medical equipment, and video relay technology for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. DRA achieved the first statewide class action settlement through a case against Redbox to make touchscreen retail kiosks accessible to blind and visually impaired customers. DRA achieved a precedent-setting court ruling in its case against Scribd Inc. that the ADA covers businesses in the virtual world, even those with no brick-and-mortar presence. Scribd Inc. agreed to make its entire online library subscription service accessible to blind readers. With the blessing of Larry's family, in 2016, DRA established the Larry Paradis Legacy Fund to support the ongoing work of DRA in Larry's honor. Sid Walensky, a managing director at DRA, co-founded the firm with Larry 25 years ago.
Larry Paradis Legacy Fund is set up so that when we're looking at a case and we decide, wow, this is even riskier than usual, right? But it's worthwhile. It's of such importance to the disability community. That's where we use the Larry Paradis Legacy Fund. And it allows us to take on issues that surely nobody else would take on.
The first case funded through the Larry Paradis Legacy Fund was DRA's case against Uber for illegal discrimination against wheelchair users. Judy Smith is a client in the case.
There was literally no wheelchair accessible for a power chair user, transportation from the Albuquerque airport into Albuquerque. So this situation with Lyft and Uber and not providing wheelchair accessible transportation is really limiting. It was limiting for me on a professional level, but also on a personal level.
Bonnie Lukowitz, who uses a wheelchair, is a former client of DRA.
This is one of the risks that I love that DRA takes because it's not clear in the law. Uber claims they're a technology platform. They're not providing a service, they're providing an app. So it's really going to be a hard fight, but they're listening. They're being educated, so that's a big part of what DRA does.
Doreen Giacopini, also using a wheelchair, was a longtime friend of Larry's and a former client of DRA.
I think Larry would be thrilled with the Uber case. Larry's big focus was on making the lives of people with disabilities better, not just one at a time, but, boom.
Dimitri strolls past photos. In one, activists gather with signs.
I think the way that Larry approached cases was much the way that Larry approached life, which was to be fearless. That there was no one who you couldn't approach. And a lot of people need to take that forward, of not being afraid of rank and power and privilege, but really saying what we're looking for here, we're not looking for special treatment, we're looking for our rights.
Linda.
The Larry Paradis Legacy Fund provides the funding so that civil rights litigators aren't put in a position of having to compromise because they don't have the resources to continue the fight, to bring a case to the best conclusion, the most impactful conclusion.
Sid.
When you contribute to DRA, you are actively participating in improving the lives of often tens of thousands of people with disabilities who you may never meet, but who will significantly benefit from what DRA does. We cannot imagine what new issues will emerge. What we know is that DRA will be there and will take them on fearlessly.
An arc spreads over the letters DRA, Disability Rights Advocates. Points of light connect to form a soaring eagle. DRA, 25 years.